Okay. So, welcome back to the kitchen on this election day or election week. Um, yeah. Hopefully, I don't go on today as long as the counting is going to take, but we'll definitely get there. We will get there. Um, what I wanted to talk about today was just, practice and a practice session and how do you construct it and how do you how do you make it flow and how do you get the best out of your athletes and also you as a coach. Um, I think it's fascinating to think that we have some top quality coaches, but they sometimes, they'd feel that they might make or they might have a blind spot in relation to like the transitions from one exercise to the next, or they don't know how to build up the intensity. This is some feedback I heard, or they're getting a lot of injuries. So how best can you prepare for that and prep that? So that's what we're going to talk about today. I think that, in the last one we talked about seasonal planning, and let's say you have your season plan, your monthly plan, your weekly plan. It's when you have your monthly and weekly plan in place, it's quite easy to understand what you want to achieve in your individual session. Um, it's just about finding the time for it. So the best way I can describe it is, or the easiest way is, think of practice as like Lego blocks. Um, I think we've all played with Lego as kids or even older sometimes. Um, and instead of it looking at it as a 60-minute or 90-minute or Japanese style 4.5 hour long session, you break it up. What I like to do anyway is to break it up into 15-minute blocks. And then you can go plus or minus a couple of minutes here and there depending on the block. And then I like to color code everything. So if you're going to do run, catch, pass skills, that's a yellow block. If you're going to do defense, that's generally like more intense. It's like redder colors. Attack is like creative. It's blue. It's green. A set piece can be split between the forwards and the backs, and they can have their own color. So it just helps you give you a visualization as you are planning or prepping the practice session, as we can see here. So the 15 minutes. So why 15 minutes? I think the 15 minutes is important because the crux of what we do in practice or where we miss out is we mess up the transitions or we talk too much. So with 15 minutes, I kind of like to work off of like a 12 minutes of activities and then 3 minutes of either transitioning from game to game or drill to drill or certain feedback. So you have to give yourself, I'd like to say at least or minimum two 30-second feedback loops. The players can generally run these feedback loops yourself if you need to go set up something or you need to go take a look at some video. You say, hey, I'll be back in 30 seconds, or you're getting water, yeah, back in 30 seconds, quick feedback loop there. So if you build two of those feedback loops into the 15 minutes, now all of a sudden you're left with 14 minutes. And then again, you can go plus or minus, you can do another one, you can go longer if need be. But then that also helps with the transition, because I find what happens is some of us we tend to plan our sessions just too tightly. It's hey, I'm going to do this for 10 minutes, I'm going to do this for 10 minutes, I'm going to do this for 10 minutes. But you're not taking into account the transition time, to get from one part of the field to the next, to explain what the rules of the game are, to explain some of the constraints that you're putting on the players. Is it like, oh, you can only offload, for instance? These things take time because there's always going to be questions and there's always going to have to be answers. So I like to give myself that 2 minutes of free time in the 15-minute block where it's if any questions come up or we're transitioning from one part of the field to the next, or then also transitioning from one exercise to a different, like from one block to another block. So that's the basic crux of how I like to do my 15-minute blocks. It's 12 minutes of activity, it's 2 minutes of transition time, and then it's two 30-second feedback loops. Um, I mean, this is just my preference. It's up to you. Like if you want to, if your work better in 20-minute blocks, then that's easier for you. Then that's fine. But just think about it like Lego. And what we want to do is we want to build a session. We're just building blocks on top of each other. So that's what we're talking about with the flow and then the transition of the session. Um, And I think as a coach that there's only one real consistent thing that you have to focus on. And that's what I talked about with the first episode, or with the rate of perceived exertions. I know this is it's not, you don't quite need it for your players, but as a coach you need to be consistent on that yourself. So you need to know when I have this game we play, if it's, let's say it's a two touch with offloads, and it's a like a turn and burn type touch game, that it's very intense, it's very fast, and it's on the exertion scale for me it's probably a 3.5, depending on the temperature, a 4 out of 5, because there's no contact in it. Um, Versus, like the position specific skills where the, number nines are working on their passes from the ground and tens are focusing on their kicking for touch. There, that's a 1 at best. It's a half even. So you need to have your blocks, your Lego blocks, and that's why I color code them all, because it's easy to recognize. You need to have a basic understanding of what each block is going to be. And then, depending on the team and how many sessions you've had that week or you're going to have, be it, is this the first of 4 sessions or is this your only session this week? And you want to kind of flow and build up from that, and you want to set the number. So if that number is set at 100%, let's say I'm going to have 40 um, perceived units this week. That's your 100%. Depending on the toughness of games or the schedule, you can lower that down to, say you take it down to 80%, or you're not playing the game, you want to do more, you want to do more exertion, you can bring it up to 120%. But you have to be consistent around how difficult each block, drill, game, whatever you want to call it, is, and then you have to be consistent around what your number is. So there was studies done at Bath University linked up with the Bath Rugby Club, where they talked about training load and where injuries come from, and they said that the majority of injuries come from our workload or training load having massive spikes in it. And if you think about it this way, like I couldn't go out and run a marathon tomorrow. I mean, I'd be in bits. But there are people that can run a marathon every day for 30 days, because they have gradually, on an incline, increased their workload and their body has adapted. And that's what we want to do with training. If you're looking to boost the number of units that you're knocking out each week, you just gradually increase, then you plateau, then you increase, then you plateau. And you always try, like when you do have your off weeks or you dip down, try not to dip down lower than um, 2 plateaus before, if that makes sense. Because then you get that massive spike. So that's the training load you want to be cognizant about. Um, and then again, just play around with the percentages. When you know your team, you'll know what's capable. You can look them in the eye and you can see if they're done or not, or if they've got more in them. So just work off that. You work off your training blocks, you work off your Lego blocks, and then work off that's 100%. And we're going to talk now about actually how the different exercises, like how can you construct something in that 12-minute block, and what is it that you're looking to achieve in that 12-minute block. So for an example, I figured it would be best to talk about tackle technique during COVID. So we're just like run through just this like a tackle technique block and how it should flow. Obviously, you're gonna need 30 seconds to start. You explain what we're doing. Is it side tackles, front on tackles? Are we looking to get dominant ones, or are we going to do the new tackle deceleration stuff? So you take 30 seconds at the start, and then what I like to do is you just fire into pairs up. So it'll be 20 seconds on, 20 seconds off. You can do the shoulder bumps. You can do the grab your wrist, like slap them in the face game. But do that twice, 3 times, and then it should warm the shoulders up a little bit. From there, you can go into a footwork progression thing. So if they're ones on you're 5 meters apart, the defender throws the ball to the attacker can try and sidestep or attack left or right, either side. And the whole focus is just on this focus is chopping your feet, keeping your little T-Rex arms and getting your punch wrap, okay? And then you throw a shoulder on. We're not tackling them, but we're just, we're starting to put some contact into our shoulders. And you can do that for a minute and a half, and everyone should cycle through. So if you're paired up, and you should cycle through pretty quickly, and then swap that to a like perhaps a backward pedal, hit the line, then launch again. And again, you can get 5-6 reps of that in quite easily in a minute and a half. We get all these reps in. We're starting to activate our feet. We're starting to activate our core. We're getting our shoulders nice and strong. And then the idea is again, you're just constantly, you're controlling the pace of it and the level of contact with your voice. You're you're acknowledging the positive, like the positive things, or the action, should I say. Um, from that, then I would go into the actual like tackle shape. So let's say we work in groups of threes, or we have like a hunter X scout or whatever it is. So you pair them or put them in fours. So you have 3 on defense and you have 1 on attack. The inside guy passes to the attacker who runs in, and depending if he goes left or right, then we actually make a tackle. We put the player on the ground. Put the player on the ground. The inside guy comes around to disturb the breakdown, and outside guy is your post or your pillar. So right now, we're working on tackle reps, but we're also working on our positioning and our decision making. Is it an inside tackler whereby the middle guy is going to have to go low, and then we have a high choke tackle to go with that? And again, groups of fours, they're working. Can adjust the spacing as you're walking around. I can actually show some clips of this. As you're walking around, um, you're going to control the tempo, because people will get lazy. Some guys might jump into it a little bit too hard. But again, you're getting actual tackles to the ground, form tackles ideally, and you're working on positioning. So again, that's 4 minutes of that, 5 minutes of that, and now with the initial chat, the 120 seconds of the shoulder thing, so we're up to 150 seconds. Plus the footwork, which would be 3 minutes. So now we're up to 5.5 minutes. So if you do 4.5 minutes of this, now we're at 10 minutes. And then we still have some time left to go as well. And then, if you're depending on the intensity and what you want to do, you can just you can make it almost like a small-sided game, whereby let's say it's walking tackle. So you walk normally, but the contact point is 100%. So then you have to chop the tackle. You have to chop their legs. Your stiff arms are allowed. You're working through that. You're trying to sweep the arm and stuff. But it's not that intense because you're not smashing into each other at full speed. So, but you are getting the work on your body. Or if you want, you can do something more along the lines of like a bigger sided game, but it's more constrained. So let's say the 15 to the sideline by the 22. That kind of space. You can put like 4-on-4. You can put 5-on-5. Put like 3 balls out there. And what you're trying to do is it's almost like we're lemmings running around, and you can tackle from behind, you can tackle from the front, and then after you tackle, you get up, you jackal the ball, and then you become the prey. I guess it's sharks and minnows here. I think that's what the game they'd call it. But that's the thing. You finish at that. We've progressed quickly. So tackling is generally always going to be a quick thing. So we've progressed up through. We've covered our shape. We've covered our footwork, and now we're getting actual like 4 to 5 minutes of real intense tackles, and that's all you need realistically. We do so much contact in the game these days that where we're looking to protect our bodies and protect the muscles and stuff. So it's a quick top up. Get some contact into us, and then that's an easy tackle block. We focused on side on tackles, we focused on our form, and again it's constant feedback the whole time. So especially with tackling and contact, we're not looking to stop after they've only done 2 reps. You want to get them as many reps as possible and use constant feedback. So call their names, and then you can acknowledge if did they chop their feet? Did they punch wrap? Did they get a good squeeze? Did they drive through? If you have the front on tackles and you have the make space, take space policies, then that's what you're just constantly talking about, because while you are shouting it at one person, other people can hear as well, so it kind of triggers them and their memories. Um, and then you'd finish with just a quick recap, and if you're leading into full team defense, that recap can go towards your positioning around the breakdown, for instance. Or if it's you want to, like, the turnover opportunities in attack, if we do get those dominant tackles. So we've used our, our our tackle session as a visual cue for what we're actually going to do, which is the full team or full or larger side squad game. So I hope it just gives you some ideas of how you can flow, um, and then the timings are working. It's very quick. It runs by so quickly, but you don't have time to stop and to chat to everyone. So that's what makes it fun and interesting for the players. So I'm going to finish up quite quickly with just your training plans and what that can look like and what you can show to the players, um, because it does seem to be that I am going on as long as these votes are taking to be counted. So yeah, you want to start with just the training plan. Is when you send it to the players, you can see here. This is just what I like to do. You've got the times, you've got the exercise, you've got the coaching points or the rules, and then you've got the equipment needed. I mean, the equipment needed is just for me, so it's easy to remember, to map out exactly what you need. Underneath that, I have, if you're going to have like attacking shapes or defensive shapes, or you have new calls or something like that, just a quick diagram, pop that under there. And then generally your dedicated practice, and I think I've talked about dedicated practice before, but it's what you want to focus on. And it's more specific than those coaching points. So it's like if you're doing tackling, it's say today I want you just to focus on the punch wrap. So there can be loosey goosey with your legs and your footwork, but the whole focus is on just getting that really nice strong wrap in behind. Um, and it's quite easy. I do all that through like a Google workbook that ties into the weekly one I've shown previously. From that, it's just a screenshot, or you can PDF it if you want, but you just screenshot it, send it to the players through WhatsApp, Discord, whatever. Um, and then it's really effective. We can talk about recruiting. It's really effective if you have guest coaches coming in, or you have new players joining, or coming to look at you at the sessions and to see is this a fit for me. And you're like, hey, this is generally what we do. This is how we track our progress, and this is what we do from from Tuesdays to Thursdays to Friday mornings or Saturday mornings, whatever. So to recap again, just think of it like Lego. One block builds upon the next. All the blocks are generally the same size. You can add a little bit on. You can take a bit off if you want, but plan your sessions in blocks that you're comfortable with. From that, you then want to look at the amount of units per week and what's your 100% for exertion levels. And again, it's going to take time. But you find your 100% and then you can go over it, you can go under it, depending on if a player needs a top up because they didn't play very much on the weekend, or was an easy enough game. Well, then you can stick an extra block on Monday or Tuesday. So yeah, that's it for the planning. Next week is going to be all about games versus drills, and taking outcomes and making games based activities rather than just the drills. I'm a big proponent of it, and it's just about how to be a creative coach. How, like I said previously, there's lots of things on YouTube, but they might not be the right fit for your team or your organization. So how do you get creative? How do you take the players that you have, or the activities that you want to do, or the gameplay, or the strategy or tactics, and develop an entire training session just based around that? And that's what we're going to try and do next week. It should be interesting. But for now, so if there's any questions, again, I'm always happy to answer these. I'm generally on live with I think I'm on the YouTube chat and the Facebook chat. So if there's any questions, or if there's any comments or anything, just let me know, and I am happy to answer them. And we're happy to to keep doing this. So I'll until next week.